Hey, wonderfuls. Welcome back to Helpers High by me, Tiffany, episode 16. And guess what? It's September. Whoop, whoop. Actually, September is the best month of the year. Why? Because it's my birthday. All right. Anywho, back to the seriousness of it all. Today, we're talking about communication, our actual lifeline. From the beginning of time to the end of time, humans have thirsted and will continue to thirst for connection through communication. So I hope you can agree. Communication is the key to everything that we do, good and bad. Think about it. When we were a baby, the first thing that we learned how to do when we wanted someone's attention was to cry. That was our first form of actual communication. As adults, that hasn't changed much. Some of y'all are still crying for attention. Just now, you do it in work clothes, and sometimes a little too close to me. So get out of here with that. No, just kidding. But relationships are the number one reason that life is worth living. Relationships are also the number one thing that makes life the hardest. And guess what's at the root of both the beauty and the mess of relationships? Yes, communication, of course. So today, we're diving in to how communication impacts every relationship that we're in. Because again, Helpers High family, we're not the victims of bad communication, whether we are delivering the communication or receiving it. There is an opportunity for us to own some of it ourselves if it didn't go well. So let me pause for a second and say that again, because this is an aha moment for most people. Not that you don't know it, but you don't hear it often. Communication includes talking and listening. So the style of communicator that you are impacts how you give communication and how you get communication. Make sense? Okay, cool. So sometimes we miss that, and that's where the blame sets in, right? You didn't say that, is what you'll hear. So last week, I had the opportunity of coaching a leadership development course. Over 4 days, it was about 70 employees. And I have to tell you, I enjoy this type of work so much. It's so great to see adults learning. And what is not new, it's just reminders, refreshers, connecting some dots, putting things together that we don't always think of, right? And sometimes we don't realize the importance of it. And this course starts off just like any other, where the folks come in and we're here for a leadership development course type of thing. And so quickly, our guide was able to answer some of the questions, bring down the tension in the room. You're probably wondering what we're doing here. You're probably wondering what you're going to get out of this course. And immediately you can see just a little bit of relaxing happening, right? And that was the immediate communication that they needed to know that they were going to be okay. By the end of the session, not only is the fulfillment of you learning your communication style, but we also put into place some opportunity for you to think about the people in your life, their communication style. And we thought of using not only people that you have to communicate with, but people that you've communicated with in the past, that you have examples didn't go well, or every time you need to communicate with this particular person, it never goes as it should in your head. So, yeah, we were able to kind of name the concern live, right? And see the opportunities where we can just get better if we choose, now that we know more. So the course is really geared for you to understand that it is truly a tool. It's another tool, a resource that you get to leave with and now help you with connections that you need to make as you go forward in life. So the guide broke down using smaller pieces, things that we can just wrap our head around. So the first thing is the questions come out with, if you have yourself in mind, are you quick in your delivery or are you more deliberate in your delivery? So when you're having conversations, does your mind immediately start to think through everything that you're saying? And for me, as I told you guys before, I grew up on comedy. I picked it up really quick because I was always quick in thought, right? Not saying that this is always helpful, by the way, just letting you know my style of communication. So when you think of like improv, if you think of like your Wayne Brady's or just comedians in general, you have to know that there's a quick wit that goes with it, especially for stand-up comedians, right? Especially what we used to do back in the days with the dozens or your mama is so those type of jokes require you to be quick-witted and immediately respond. It would be a challenge for you to have to analyze what was said and be quick. Not that it's impossible. I'm sure people can learn some sense of that style. The next question asked is, are you task focused or are you people focused? And let's be very clear. At the end of the day, the task gets completed. But do you think of the people first, or do you think of how I need to finish the task first? You can flip it once you've done what you need first. So for me, it's always going to be bring the people forward, but complete the task on time is important to me too. For others, it's I need to roadmap what needs to be done and then find people who go with that plan. Both of them are completely acceptable forms of communication, but they are a different style. So once folks started understanding what their own style was, right, from that little lesson, you're then put into kind of a quadrant so that you can understand this. Prior to the class, you were sent a survey that needed to go out to people that you work with or live with or people in your lives that you communicate with on a regular basis to see where they would rate you. But that is all held until the end of the day one class. I mean, you could almost see the gears turning. It's so fascinating. And man, there is nothing that I love more than when adults can actually see an opportunity of growth. Of course, the comments begin like, oh, that's why such and such gets frustrated with me. Oh, that's why my spouse asks me 4 more questions after I say everything. Oh, that's why this person and I don't see eye to eye ever. Once we understand our style, the people around us with their style, the question then becomes, so what? So what? But here's the so what. Once you know, you now have the tools to adapt your style better with others. That's the so what. It's called versatility. And that is a total game changer. Versatility allows you the opportunity to meet other people in their space. The more versatile you are, the more flexible you are in, again, not only delivering your style consistently, it's the same way that you would change your style or behavior instantly depending on the group that you're talking to. So if I said, hey, go and deliver this way to color to a group of kindergarten students who have never colored before, you would know immediately that you had to have patience, that you may have to explain it more than one time, that you have to be very clear and concise in what it is that you are trying to teach them about coloring. And that you would do automatically. But I find in the workspace, we are not as friendly. We don't always give that same amount of thought. We're not as lenient with our explanation of making sure that others get it. We say what we said, and sometimes that's it. All communication requires versatility. And versatility is not about changing who you are. It's about communicating in a way that the person receiving the message can actually hear you. Who doesn't want to be heard? Everyone wants to be heard. You have to change your style depending on who the audience is. And if I told you the same from one extreme to the next, that our delivery is going to be to a senior citizen group, that everyone is hearing impaired and over the age of 80, you would again come in with a style that says, slow myself down and be ready to repeat myself often as this group needs that. But in the workplace, again, that's not our thought. We assume that everyone who enters the room needs to understand the way that we have created our work to be. We've worked hard on it. We've put Excel sheets out. We've sent an email. We've talked about it multiple times. So obviously, when you got to this room, you should already understand what I'm talking about. And that's just not true. We have to be mindful that everyone needs to be able to learn at their own pace, communicate and understand at their own pace as part of that learning. Influence, connection. Now, there's a lot of that going on these days, right? You're seeing a lot of influencers, right? It's a whole job title and things that when we were growing up never existed per se. When we thought of influencers, we thought of a good commercial, right? There's Folgers in my cup. That was the way that we influenced brands back then. But these days, it's really through excitement, enjoyment, people making eye contact, people letting you know continuously, people trying out, giving reviews. All of this is how communication looks in our world today. I don't even know how I got through life without reviews. I don't buy a product online if I don't know that other people like it. That's part of communication. When we practice communication, the results are undeniable. The first thing is that it improves relationships. Misunderstanding drops, right? There is no need for you to say, oh, I didn't understand what you said. And it shrinks conflict. Conflict is going to usually arrive when two people don't understand what the other's intent or reasoning, supporting anything was about. Decisions get faster, trust increases, and collaborative finally feels collaborative. When you're working towards the same goal and each of you respect each other enough to out loud ask questions, out loud fact find, out loud clarify, you're going to get a better result overall. And that's the power of communication and communication versatility, right? Keep your mind open. The way our world works today, if you can't communicate somehow, some way, some shape, some form of communication, because there are so many ways to communicate. But if you are not communicating well, then you're not just stuck, you're actually falling behind. But during the last 4 days, what was the best was that every single person in that room was interested on how to be a better communicator. I thought that was so awesome because you can see the thirst for knowledge. Like I've thought of myself, but then I also thought of this relationship where that person, it just feels so difficult to work with them. And I want it to be better, but I'm not really sure what the problem is. Sometimes we start labeling people as slow or mean or poor listeners or they don't care enough about me. And we start doing all of that instead of just realizing that there could just be a gap in communication style. So not only do people want to communicate better, but they also want to be heard. And when you're a good communicator, you're actually being heard. Communication is the bridge that makes it all work. And I also want us to be very real because even with the tools that I have in communication and the tools that now you're realizing that, yes, you too have some of these. And sometimes they're in a pocket with a locked pad. So you may have to open it. But sometimes relationships, regardless of the communication and how great you are at communication, just won't work. It's just not going to click. And that's okay. You are not here to be liked or understood by everyone, but you are here to give it your all. And if you felt that you've done that multiple times and it's just not working, then sometimes your all means thanks, but no thanks. Not everyone is meant to be our best friends, and not everyone is going to be our greatest collaborator. That's just how it is. The key is understanding that, creating healthy boundaries. So, in multiple conversations, I've told you about boundaries, and you're not going to get away from the need for boundaries. It's going to protect your peace. So, you're going to have to come up with multiple boundaries to continue to have great relationships. And it's absolutely never to take it personal. And you know what I say? Easier said than done. Taking it personal is almost a human reaction. When you don't feel good about something or the way someone did something, it's instant to take it personal. Now you have to start undoing that, understanding that it might not be personal at all. It just may be their style of communication. But okay, wonderfuls, you know the drill and you know what time it is. It's time for a pulse check. Let's do a pulse check on communication and see where we are currently. Okay. And then we can always revisit in other segments and so forth and see if anything has changed. Now, I have to tell you right here, I'll pause for a second because I want you guys to know how much I appreciate the feedback, how much I appreciate you guys that have been true to listening. Come when you can. There's no days that are required for you to listen. You guys know that I drop an episode every Monday, but it is truly on your own time. And I get that some of you have longer car rides, some of you have shorter car rides, some of you work from home. So the play is not the same. Whenever you can, if you get a chance to listen to a piece, do so. But also subscribe, leave comments, all of that. It helps me to engage better and it helps me to prepare for conversations that we can have. And I know some of you have been chomping at the bit to find out, when is this guest, a real guest, not Tiffani again, coming on? And we are going to get there. I truly didn't set that up because I felt like once I had a guest, I would need to be able to continue with that cadence. And I have to tell you, this is no true side gig. All right. Doing a podcast requires a lot of learning. Okay. I'm editing myself. My husband's helping me again with the lighting and all of the things that I need to do. I bullet point some scripts, but I really don't come up with my episodes until usually Friday. And then today, Saturday, I record. So I try to record, edit, and everything, all of that, and get it posted out by Monday mornings for your listening enjoyment or listening viewing enjoyment, depending on how you're listening or watching. Now, again, I said all of that to give you guys just a little bit of understanding of why this is a challenge. Getting another guest here and then having to edit and then when I am still working a 50 to 60 hour work week in my regular day job is not easy. And that's the honest truth. It's not because I think that I need to speak alone or this is my podcast. It's none of that. It's just the obligation of having somebody on requires a true obligation of having somebody on. And I just haven't been in the space to get that truly ready and designed that way. I still only have one mic, for example. So working on all of these things on to making sure that I could at least make it consistent once I go for that flip change. So stay with me. I'm here. If nothing less, hope you're seeing the shorts that I put out for quicker responses and so forth too. Now, back to our pulse check. That's where we are. Are you ready? Okay, cool. First question. Have you ever realized that someone did not understand you and immediately thought, what did you not understand? Have you ever avoided a person instead of having an expected hard conversation? Mm. Have you ever expected others should change and may have even complained about them without tweaking your own communication first? Do you sometimes talk more than you listen? Do you interrupt people before they finish? Now, I told you guys since episode 1, that is still to this day my biggest opportunity. And I don't interrupt because I don't want to hear you. I interrupt because Tiffani gets so excited to go back and forth in a conversation that I completely cut you off. And I know that that feels dismissive, especially to certain communication styles. When I'm speaking to someone who is very similar in my communication style, it's okay. And that's why this is a learned behavior. Because in my family, loud conversations rolling, you needed to jump in just to get your word across, and everyone was doing it. We never saw this as a problem. But now, in workspaces, especially, in professional spaces in general, people don't like to be cut off. Sometimes I legit bite my lip, hold my lip, drink things just to stop myself from jumping in. I'm mindful of it, but it still needs to be a constant reminder for me. If you answered yes to multiple questions that was just asked in our pulse check, you've learned where your growth opportunity lives. In any of those yeses, growth exists. Now, you guys know that my passion is people and my love is psychology because it teaches us that people should be different. And I embrace that wholeheartedly. But one of the things that I remember learning years ago in school, and this may be new for some of you, or some of you may have heard this before, but our human DNA is actually 99.9% the same. Yeah, you heard me. Almost identical. 99.9. So when Maury says you are not the father, it all breaks down to that 0.1%. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But here's what we know. We allow that 0.1% to separate us in so many different ways. In the way we think about how people look, in our inherited beliefs, the delivery in our communication preferences, our accents, our tone, biases. Let us not forget that. All of that we use sometimes to separate us. And it's interesting that we look for things to separate us, even though humans in general always are going to look for things that we have in common first. So we're doing it at the same time. The first thing that I do when I look at people is find out what we have in common. Some are easier than others, right? Age groups: woman, 2 legs, 2 arms, talkative, quiet. Some things are easier to see. And then as we build relationships, we get to deeper dive into things that bring us together or separate us. Again, 0.1%. It's wild. But when we stay curious, when we lean into learning, when we focus on what unites us, because that's the goal, instead of the noise telling us things like those types of people, we lose our purpose. So last week was truly an investment. It was an investment on people. It was an investment for our company. It was an investment on the opportunity to do business more efficiently, and definitely more thoughtfully. But also, it was a statement of hope. For a company to consider delivering leadership development, and hopefully you work for companies like this. If you're self-employed, I absolutely implore you, require you, suggest to you, beg you, please think of some of these self-assessment classes where growth will help you evolve your business, even if you're self-employed. Any type of training, assessment, learning helps, period. You want to stay growing, whether you're reading books or doing surveys. There is one online, and I'll plug it just for the heck of it, because I remembered that it was really all I had at one point on how to develop myself better. It's called 16 Personalities, and it's a free assessment online. That's, again, a place to start. But if you, again, have a company and so forth, please always say yes. Always say yes. There's nothing like self-care and development. We do a lot of self-care on our outside appearance. It absolutely helps to do self-care on your mental. Okay? So communication training isn't a nice to have. It's a culture building boost of productivity, tension, and it attracts talent. It builds future leaders, and it's a corporate advantage. So if you're listening, you have the ability to deliver some of these types of courses, choose yes every time for the people who work for the company that you represent as well. Now, Helpers High family, here's where I need to give you the straightforward, shoot from the hips. Pew, 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 pew. We're not victims of receiving and delivering bad communication. We're not. We're not stuck with just the way I am, as I mentioned. We get to choose. Sometimes what you heard requires it to be repeated. And it doesn't matter and shouldn't matter the room or setting that you're in. If someone is assuming that you understood direction, representation from them, then you owe it to them and to yourself to make sure it's clear. Don't be afraid to ask folks to repeat themselves. Don't be afraid to say, can you forward me that in an email? Don't be afraid to say, what I heard was, I just wanted to repeat that to make sure we're all on the same page. Come up with whatever the tool is that you need to be the best communicator, listening and speaking. We have to be okay with stopping ourselves from walking away confused, disappointed, or worse, mad by what we are allowing. Yes, we actually get frustrated. We leave the meeting, and then I don't know how many of you have experienced it, but I've experienced it far too often, where there is the meeting for the meeting. It's like the after party, but it's the after meeting, right? After the meeting, everyone does not have the clear answers that they need, and possibly our feelings got away from us or whatever happened. Feelings allow us sometimes to shut down or allows us to go in with what? You know what I'm saying. Okay. So even here at home, and I've said this before, I have to be very mindful of my communication because I'm quick. And I said it and I said pieces. Sometimes it's like one word in out of three. And I just assume that you picked up the two missing words like a Mad Lib game. That's not how everyone understands it. So I then can't be mad when someone did not get it, but I have to have that conversation with the people around me that's going to be here often, that's how I speak. And please stop me if I said something that you didn't understand or asked me to clarify something. Don't just walk away going, what? My son has done this to me in the past. He'll go and ask his sister, what was she talking about? And I'm like, I'm right here. Why are you asking her? But they speak each other's language. So he's just trying to get it from somebody else who speaks his language better. But it's not that I am not willing to speak his language. I need to be told that I didn't. And that's what happens to some of us. We have to be okay with people being vulnerable in our presence when they're trying to explain to us that something that we said either didn't sit well, wasn't clear. There's multiple reasons for it. Sometimes people are fearful of what they think your reaction would be if you spent so much time talking and they didn't understand it. And that also causes them not to. And again, we live in a time where people just don't want to feel stupid. If I feel like I'm the only one in the room who didn't understand it, then there is a possibility, not me personally, because I'm still going to ask, but there is a possibility that somebody else in that room did not get the message, but will not say, can you repeat that? We have to be mindful. If you know that humans crave connection, and we do, then we have to be real about the question, what are we going to do about ensuring better communication, growth in communication styles? It's going to be a constant ongoing. We've not only incorporated more people in our lives, but we've incorporated computers in our lives. And computers need a different style of communication from us. So we're constantly growing in how we communicate, with who we're communicating with, and the purpose of our communication. It has to be a skill that you continue to try to craft. So, like everything else, how does somebody get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Communication is a skill. You're never going to be able to master it, but you should be mindful that it is required for you to grow in communication styles in order to get along with people and to get further along with your needs being met. Active listening instead of cutting people off, Tiffani. You haven't seen it yet because I'm here alone. When I get my first guest, again, I'm going to be very thoughtful to not do it, but you may see that. Because again, it requires so much thought from me to not do it. And it's never intentional with any bad will intent. It's just a poor style of communication that was accepted way too long in my life. You also want to be mindful of adapting your delivery so that your message hits. It's one thing to have a great message, but if you don't deliver it well, it doesn't get the buy-in that it needs. It doesn't get the support that it needs. It doesn't get the action that it needs. Delivery matters. And again, I'm going to repeat, setting boundaries instead of replaying the same arguments over and over and over again. Communication is a skill, and to grow the skill will be our choice. So you can listen to all of this and then just say, people need to get on board. That's who I am. And I would say, that sucks, but do you? It's not going to be a one-time fix. It's going to be a forever practice. And the moment that we own that and stop waiting for others to change and start changing how we show up, that's where freedom is. That's where joy is. And that's where our power is. So the question is, are you going to let it run on autopilot, or are you going to study it, practice it, and let it change your life? Better communication builds better relationships. And again, that's all we're looking for in life is good relationships. Relationships that bring us joy and fulfill our needs. When we communicate well, we don't just talk. We create movement, we change rooms, we enrich relationships, and we enhance the opportunities that we give ourselves in our entire future. Good communication actually decides whether people lean in to us or check out. So this week, don't just talk, connect. Don't just listen, understand. And don't just demand change, make change. We are not victims. We are the authors of our own life stories, and the world needs the best version of you. Together, we make magic. See you soon.